I actually got traded to Boston in 22 and played about 13 below average games there. Then went on the IL, so we'll make sure to get something for your husband after this. I got you. There's no worries.
No, he told me. I told him that I met you guys yesterday. He was very jealous.
Incredible.
And he was like, oh, Hosmer played for the Red Sox for like a year.
It was amazing because I got to play there and then Chicago after for the Cubs. So the difference between those fan bases, unreal. Like Boston, I was watching Xander Bogaerts get 4 hits in a game, and he gets the 5th one, and he like grounds out, and they're like, Xander, clean up that 5th at-bat. Think about that tomorrow. And then Chicago, like the fans are so nice out there. Like we lost the game, they're like, it's okay, guys, we'll get them tomorrow. And I'm like, this is such a big difference.
Oh my gosh.
On the stairs this time.
Right? Oh, right. Yeah, no, this is an upgrade.
Oh, yeah.
Look at you guys, look all nice.
I just saw your J's right there,
Thank
too.
you.
Oh, you joined the party?
I know. These are I like these ones. I got the new Travis Scotts yesterday. I saw that you had, I got the yellow ones.
I'm upset about it because the rain and the dirt and all
No.
that. Right. Yes. I had like a little mini dirt stain on it. I got to get all over it.
You wore those yesterday?
The Travis Scotts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I didn't look at the weather before the game. That's on me.
And I made you run the bases.
You did. Stone Street had 2. He said he had plantar fasciitis in both feet. So he's like, I need one of you guys to run. And I'm like, okay, well, Moose isn't doing it. So
Was there ever a worry you guys weren't going to play the game?
The whole time.
Yeah.
The whole time. That's the first time ever that there's ever even been rain.
Yeah,
But it's kind of nice because it wasn't super hot. It's normally.
We were just here last week.
Yeah, it's normally
and it was
thick.
so humid.
Yeah.
But usually in those situations, if anything's going to affect the game, the actual game that's going on at night, they don't let anything happen on the field.
Right.
So that was nice that they got to let us get the game in, and shout out to the Royals on that one.
They screamed like, nobody on the infield, no brawls, because usually they do like the brawl.
Everyone had to stay back, and you caught.
Yeah.
You caught that nice line drive.
I caught the only ball. Like everyone's like, "Oh, great catch yesterday." I go, "You mean only catch yesterday?" Like,
it was the last play of the game, right?
It was because I was like, "Oh, I'm probably not going to get to bat, so I'm going to go up to the table and like say some joke to Haas and Moose like at the table." So I'm not going to get to bat. So I was just like scrolling through my set from the night before at Sherman's house. John Sherman's house. Like I was like, oh, what can I do that I didn't do? Or like, and then I hear the ball and I like look up. I go, oh, and I had to call Rom off because he ran in front of me the first at bat. Adam Scott's at bat.
That's why you missed it.
That's why I missed that line drive. I didn't call him off, and he's like, next time call me off. And I go, I got it, Rom.
I got it, Rom.
Yeah, that's what Esky would always get mad at me because I'd always cut in front of him. Like, Moose, just let me make the play. I'm like, I got you, dog.
This is my play.
Yeah, but we were watching your, some of the stuff when we got back last night, and like we didn't know that you did like the quick little hits with MLB, and like we started pulling those up, and they are hilarious.
Oh, thanks.
They are like we were sitting here rolling.
The rowdy.
Oh yes, 18 inches of movement on Skeen's fastball is always
But I'm sure a lot of people are asking you about the Tom Brady roast because you wrote a lot of the material. So how did that work? Did you kind of get assigned to one of the players to help them out, or how did that whole process happen?
We don't get assignments until the week before, or like a few days before the roast. Was like we're busy writing it, and then you start. This one was completely different. I've written on all of them since Charlie Sheen, so it's been a long time. And like normally you get an assignment and you go to a room and you're like, all right, everybody write jokes about Alec Baldwin, and you're like, okay, and then but this time there were 6 of us. There's normally 15 of us, and there were only 6, and there were twice as many people on the dais, and so we wrote so much as a room together for just 6 people. And so, I mean, I was there for 5 weeks. It's the longest I've ever been on a roast, and then the week before, it's like, oh, who do you know the best? Who have you worked with before? Who trusts you? And then then you get assigned. So I was with Gronk and Peyton, who are completely opposite. They could not be more different.
Right? Peyton's like structured, we need this going at this time, and Gronk is not so structured.
Gronk is like, I want to write a joke about a 1,300-mile long dick. And nobody even know who he was talking about. he puts it in the script that we'd already written for him, and we're like, what is? And then we're asking him about it. He's like, you get it, right? And we're like,
Yeah.
We totally get it, but we just didn't know, like, the pronouns were wrong. Like, we didn't know if it was Brady he was talking about, if it was Belichick he was talking about. And we sat there for an hour in the room, like, trying to fix it. And then finally we go, nah, let's just let Gronk say it the way he wants to say it. And then he added through the Carolinas. He wanted to add, he was very specific about that part.
He went way off the prompter, as everyone pointed out, right? I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's all worked out.
I know.
So when you do write the joke and like Gronk's delivering or someone's delivering it, like how do you like respond if they like tell it well or tell it like not so well?
Well, you do try to direct them when you get them to rehearsal.
Okay.
So they all have individual rehearsals, and then you kind of direct them, or you'll like go, oh, we'll just take out this word, or we'll change it because you're like stumbling over this or that. And so you kind of like whittle everything down. But yeah, with Gronk, like we thought about having him come out with glasses and doing this like very cerebral, and then we were like, nah, you gotta let Gronk be Gronk.
Have to. It's such a hard format too.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask as well, is there ever a moment when you're writing these jokes for people and just crushing them? At first, were you ever like, did you ever feel bad?
Ruining their soul, yeah.
Were you ever like, oh, I wonder how they're gonna feel, or oh man, some people that might be very difficult because they don't want to quote unquote hurt feelings, but does that ever...
No, I don't ever think like that. I'm just kidding. No,
let me add to that though,
true.
because like you're not the one out there doing it, right? So you're putting these words in other people's mouth, and everyone's like, "Holy shit, I can't believe that person said that." When you're the one that said that.
Yes,
right?
when I was like, "Oh no, it was my fault that he said Aaron Hernandez was hung." That was, that's on me. But I actually did that at the Poppy roast. I did a version of that at the because I did David Ortiz roast when he retired, and. Yeah.
Yes. So there was a Pedroia story. He killed it on that roast. Is it the same one where he was like, David didn't know my name, and then he's standing on top of my wallet one? That was hilarious.
I was also the only woman on that roast, and so I got called a whore for like an hour and a half because like people don't know what else to say, and I don't really I'm hard to roast. I've done a lot, written for a lot, but I've also performed on, not on any of the Comedy Central ones, but mostly like roast battles, like head to head. And so like I got up there. By the way, I was so hammered because Catherine Veritek gave me something to drink before the show that like I blacked out. Like I blacked out within an hour. So thank God there was a teleprompter. And
you gotta read when you're blacked out?
Yeah,
it's not easy.
No,
I know, Moose. It's hard for you to read when you're sober.
Yeah.
You know, but like,
that's him. I can read.
Yesterday to get flyball. Caught.
Oh, really?
Yo,
He was filmed up because he had to commentate live.
Yeah, that's just I'm not that kind of guy. Like this is a more like easy setting for me. But that's what like it's crazy because we play baseball and like we're on the field and like we can go out there and do that. I have so much like I'm envious of people able to get on a stage and perform in front of like anybody in any form, whether music, comedy, like it's insane.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know where it comes from or why. It's just like always one of those things. Like I was in theater growing up, so like when I started stand-up, which I started on a dare like 2 years after I moved to LA, like it was just like, oh, I'm used to being up here, and like now at least if I get applause, I get all the credit, but if I fail, it's only my fault.
Right.
And so there was like a lot more accountability, but it is very nerve-wracking when you're doing a roast, like because you're also like trying to be in the moment too. It's like that's the first thing with the Brady roast is like for it to be live was so different for us because normally when you're producing someone on top of all the other jokes you've written, like you're running back and forth and being like, hey, do you want to say this? Like, because since this just happened on stage and like you had no access to them at all the whole time. It was very bizarre.
And like you were saying, Moose, it's different fans. These are football fans. Usually when you're doing a comedy show.
Yeah, she said it yesterday at the game. Like, if you can explain to them, I did a terrible job of doing it, but like
It wasn't terrible. It wasn't.
It wasn't good though. The way you said it was way better.
Fly ball.
Caught.
So you were doing play-by-play and you were doing color, or what was happening?
No.
We were both supposed to do something. It got dropped on us the last like 20 minutes of it.
Yeah.
And then
I was
the
like,
actual host kept telling us, tell her to run home. Tell her to run through it. We're like, I don't know what to do. That's Sheryl Crow. I'm not telling her what to do.
Yeah,
Cheryl, do whatever you want.
So one of the things I love about clubhouses with professional athletes is there's some elite roasting that goes on amongst players, just behind the scenes. For someone who's watching and they're like, what are some tips on how to roast somebody? Do you have any basic principles, some things that someone could apply?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest rule is to always roast the ones you love, because if you don't, like, the jokes become just mean. And like when there's no human connection between you two, then like I'm not writing a joke to upset you. I'm trying to impress you with like the things that I have said. Like I remember roasting Ralphie May like right after like the Ray Rice incident in the NFL, and I like compared him to Ray Rice. I was like, you're not an athlete, but no one wants to be on an elevator with you either, you know, because Ralphie was 600 pounds. So it's like, you know, like you're just like saying stuff, and like I know he wants to use that in his act now. Like I know he like thinks that joke is funny and respects it. And so, but it is different with athletes because, like, because I remember at the Poppy roast, I was like, you know, everyone's just, you know, making fun of me, you know, calling me a whore. Gronk had a great joke, was like, I was like, I turn into a quarterback whenever I see Sarah because I'll pass. He says that. And I was like, that's a good one. But I remember saying, you guys are calling me a whore for an hour and a half. Like, you're giving me a lot of credit. My list of sexual partners is a lot like Dustin Pedroia. It is embarrassingly short. And so he didn't, I don't think he liked me after that. I was like, I was just...
He was really good on that, though.
He was good. He was very good.
He was. So you love baseball, obviously,
love
too, right?
Baseball.
Atlanta, Moylan, Pete Moylan is also
Look at
Yes.
the co-host on here.
I know I got my Chipper Jones Bowman rookie card shirt on. No notes.
No.
No notes.
How did that start? Atlanta, the Braves, obviously being.
Yeah, well, actually, I was born in Northern California. My grandmother, my whole side was Oakland A's fans. And then we moved to Georgia when I was 5, and obviously couldn't get the games, so we started watching Braves games, and my whole family liked baseball. My grandmother taught me to keep score at the games, so I was always, like, even today when I go, I usually keep the book. If it's the Braves, if it's anybody else, I don't really care. But I think it's also a woman thing. Like, I don't know I want to know when you messed up. I want to know the exact moment that you messed up. Yeah. So that I can reference it for years to come in an argument. Oh, remember 3 years ago when you hit into a double play?
That's funny, because my mom used to keep the scorebook every game. So I have like it's actually cool. She gave it to me for my birthday when I was like 22 or something. It was like a book of all my Little League games and high school games. And it was like
a record of it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she kept every single game.
Oh,
it was super cool.
Awesome.
Wow, that's so nice.
Yeah.
I tried doing that a couple times at games, and I would just forget about pitches, I would zone out, and it just never worked.
Well, I got hit by a foul ball once because I was like looking down, keeping the book, and I.
Not right here.
No, not like the girl in Toronto, not with the goose egg. That's,
okay.
Yeah. No, the goose egg. We'll just leave those on the box score of the Blue Jays. But they're having a tough year. Sorry, no offense. I know.
No, America.
No, I was in San Francisco, and that was before they had built the bullpens there. Because remember when they built Pac Bell Park, they forgot to build the bullpen, and I used to always sit by the bullpen so I could see who was coming in. So I was sitting on the third base side, and I was just like looking down, and Freddie Freeman hits a line drive. Best day of my life, honestly. Like it hit me right here in the leg, and I was limping. I was doing the Bottle Rock Festival right after, so I was like limping the whole time, but it was so worth it.
Did you get the ball?
Yeah.
Oh, nice, good.
I didn't catch it.
Yeah, I mean,
but somebody gave it to me because they felt bad.
Did you have Freddie sign it?
So funny. So the next week I was on Jay Moore's radio show talking about it, and then when the Braves came and played the Dodgers, so then I threw the ball to him and he signed it for me, and then he threw me another one so that I have one he meant to give me and one he did not mean to give me.
That's cool.
So where does the accent come in with the comedy side, and then obviously not much of an accent now?
Well, because y'all don't have one.
I mean, I could.
I tend to mimic.
We were watching something. We were like, oh, I don't remember having that accent.
Yeah,
we were talking last night. Then we turned on some baseball ones, and your accent went away.
Yes.
We were like, I don't know about this.
Sometimes it goes back and forth because my parents are not from Georgia, but all my friends were. So at home, I talked one way, and at school, I talked another way. So depending on who I'm talking to. Like if it's my sister, like we sound like dueling banjos. But like if it's anybody else, I usually just mimic the way you're talking because I want to like make sure we understand each other. But then if I'm on stage, then I'm not listening to anybody. I'm not hearing anyone talk, hopefully. And so I usually just, and then I've always had probably a list of little Jack Daniels, and like that helps.
How would you be speaking if Peter Moylan was here?
Oh, I was, I have an Australian accent for sure. I'd be like, Professor? No.
So but you grew up Braves fan. You also did stuff with the Braves. Like you didn't just go to the games, right? You were working them at some
Well,
time?
we would go to the games when I was really young, when no one went, before they were popular. Like you'd have 2 extra tickets, you'd put them on your windshield, you'd come back and there'd be 4. Like no one cared. They were like, you can sit wherever you want. And we liked Bruce Benedict the most just because of his intro. There is a very much, they would be like, Bruce. And when you're a kid, you're like, that's the coolest name ever. I'm not the best player, but we loved his name. No offense. Sorry. Not you.
No,
I
I know,
was
I'm
saying
kidding.
Bruce. And we'll get to you in a minute.
No, no.
No. But then in high school, in college, I was working in Atlanta, like going to school there, and then I got a job for the Braves shooting the T-shirts out of the cannons and making balloon animals. And we would do the fan player interview before the game. And that's when we had John Rocker, who was my favorite, still one of my favorite relief pitchers of all time. I mean, he was our Wild thing.
He was.
He was.
It was so fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Very wild.
Taking the train in New York to the game.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, I want the smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want
you
it
should
all.
ask him that question, the Chelsea Handler question that you asked me.
I was so scared to ask you. I wish we should have told you, hey, just Hazamoose, get some material, bust it out of them. I might be thankful that that's not happening.
Yeah, I
but
can't handle
I
the
kinda do
roast.
wish it did happen.
So what's really interesting is just I love to hear the process of people who are really good at what they do. People don't realize the process of a major league hitter, the process of a pitcher.
Yeah.
The process of a comedian to write a bit or a joke. Can you share some of that? Because I don't know if a lot of people, or your process.
Well, I mean, a lot of things are compare and contrast. Like that's like a metaphor. Like, Ralph, like I said, that joke about Ralphie May is a lot like this athlete because, right? That's like kind of a basic joke structure. My favorite thing is like when something happens in the world that you can use as a reference point. Like, I don't know if you guys remember when all those millionaires imploded off the coast of New York and like are now underwater. But I was like, but enough about the Mets, and like it's like right when that happened, and
That
it was
is
like
also our favorite thing is you crush the Mets, and that is perfect for us.
You said the joke at Sherman's house. You were telling us at the game yesterday with the $100.
Yes, they shredded, the magician shredded a bunch of money, and I was like, oh, this must be what it feels like to own the Mets. Just throwing money away into nothing. Yeah, don't get anything out of it.
That's so Mets too, right? That is just so Mets.
Yeah, I mean, I hate the Mets and the Phillies. Like, I would cheer for Al Qaeda before them. So like, I'm not like, we'll just get Al Qaeda next year instead. Like, I will troll Bryce Harper to the end of time. I just did it last week because he helped some kid ask a girl to prom, and I'm like, well, he's really good at asking for things like money and a contract extension.
Shout out to Scott
You have
Boras.
that-
Yeah, I love making fun of Scott
You have a
Boras too.
segment on MLB Network.
Yes, it's on
But that-
off base. Yeah.
So you come in for a couple minutes, roast a lot of the players and a lot of what's going on in the game. But how did you get to that point? Because it's pretty interesting how you did that.
Well, I was just doing it all last year on my own on my Instagram, and I was like, no one's doing jokes about baseball. Like, and I write a lot of jokes about football and all sports, and I had a segment for college football, but I love baseball more than any other sport. I watch it every day. My whole day is determined by whether or not the Braves win. Like, they can ruin my mood. Sorry to my son. So like, he just has to see mommy angry at night. But like, yeah, so I was doing that. I just was like, oh, I'm gonna do jokes on my Instagram, just tell my own, just like see if I can do it every week. And I did it every week all the way through the World Series. And then the MLB held the all MLB awards in December as their first time ever doing an award show. So that they asked me to write for that. Well, my friend was hosting it. Roy Wood Jr. was hosting it, so he asked for me to help. And then I started meeting all the guys at MLB, and they were, we were talking about, and I was like, oh, they've never done this before. But I've written on the ESPYs for a long, so I was like, oh, I know how to do this, and I just kind of took over. I was like, I'll just do it. And then we had such a great time, and then we just kept the relationship alive. And then before the season this year, they were like, I think we want to just put your segment on, and we'll edit it for you. There's a few more, I can't say as much as I could
right.
on Instagram.
Right.
But that's okay. To me, like, comedy is more interesting when there's an out of bounds. Like, when you have to play within the lines, it's like, it makes your job harder, but it makes you have to think more creatively, like a little outside the box. And like, I like that kind of challenge.
You start to see now with comedians, like Shane Gillis is obviously one of the top right now. He's really big into football. They're starting to kind of collaborate with sports, which is super cool.
Yeah, because I think so many times, like, they've tried to do comedy sports shows or like late night sports shows and stuff like that. And it's really hard because not all sports fans like comedy. I mean, you think you do until they make fun of your team, and then you don't like it, Yeah, and then not all comedians can do, sports jokes. But then there's also, like, if you're not coming at it from a real fan perspective, like, people are like,
you don't really know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like, it's like your own family. Like, you can make fun of your brothers and sisters, but when an outsider comes in, you're like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Stay away.
That's what we were watching last night. We were watching some of your stuff. We're like, you get the lingo, the baseball lingo. And like, this is hilarious. You know what I mean?
That means a lot coming from you. Because I feel like I don't know quite as much as I should.
I wish I'm still playing, because I would use your material in the club to get on these guys.
Oh, man.
We have something, so baseball teams, you want to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? So there's times where on the bus rides to the airport, or on the hotel to the hotel, the young guys, when you're younger, you usually have to go to the front of the bus. You gotta say something funny.
Backpacks.
Sing a song.
Yes, backpack, sing songs. Yeah, go into the bullpen.
Yeah.
So it's like, you get in front of, like, you hold the microphone and you're in front of your teammates, like people you are super comfortable with, and you're still just like freaking out. Like, our first year in the big leagues, we were dreading every bus ride, because we're like, damn, they're gonna call on us.
We knew we were getting called up. And so our thing was, we had to go up there, and like, he had to make a beat, and I had to like rap or something, like, about one of our teammates. I was like, Haas, we got this. And like, all of a sudden we just clicked, and we it was actually it's pretty good.
It was phenomenal, actually.
Yeah, you want to show us?
No.
We need to get a video.
Oh, it's just like the team, like whoever like the team leader is like, hey, this is what you're gonna do today. Usually like make somebody sing a song, or like, it's all like in fun, but they're like, you're rapping. I'm like, okay.
Yes. So one of the best ever, and I hope this is okay sharing on this. So we had a player, and usually the September call-ups, right? So guys know when they come up in September, there's gonna be a lot of rookies. So that's usually where a lot more of the bus activity, the bus fun comes.
Okay.
So we had a player come up in May. Fast forward to September. Now we're like, all right, we're gonna start doing some of these rookies, getting them on the songs, telling us a story, whatever. So we have one player come to the bus, and he starts singing Cisco, the thong song. And he starts going up and down the aisles, and he rips his pants off, rips his shirt off, and he has a thong on.
That's unbelievable.
And he's singing the song. And we're like, buddy, how'd you know we were gonna call you up? We had no idea, like, you were going today.
Yeah.
He goes, I've been wearing this every day since May, just in case I got called up. So we're like, that is unbelievable.
You're good, dude.
It was the best one I've ever seen. It was the best one I've ever seen.
Committed.
Yes.
It was committed.
That is amazing. Gosh.
Yes. But there is something to it, because after a couple times of getting called up there, you literally do not care about getting laughed at anymore.
Sure.
It just gets you comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, other than that one, like, no matter, like, because we couldn't help but cheer for him. It was unbelievable. But most times, no matter what, you're getting booed.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's just like, you're just getting, you could be an incredible singer, you're just getting booed. Like, it's just how it is.
That's what I was going to ask. So we had a conversation with Rob Riggle, and he was talking about what he loves about stand-up is the immediate feedback you get.
Yes.
You'll know right there and then if you're good or if you're bad. And I just thought that was fascinating. Has there ever been a time where you just bombed a memorable moment?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Give
I
us,
think right now. No. There's been so many times in like epic ways. Like, I mean, once I opened for Aretha Franklin, and like they didn't tell anyone, a comedian, was coming out. And I only got the gig because I had been opening for Brad Paisley, and they were like, we need someone with outdoor amphitheater experience. I go, okay. And like, yeah, so that was awful. But like the biggest one was like, I remember I was working at the Four Seasons in LA. That's where I was like waiting tables when I first started doing stand-up. And this band, Big and Rich, comes in, and they're like, you know, Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy was huge at the time. And this guy, John Rich, he like hears my accent. He's like, where are you from? I said, I'm from Georgia. He goes, are you an actress? I said, oh, I'm a comedian. He said, oh, I love comedy. I said, I know, you ordered a Chardonnay. And then I like walked out. And then he thought it was so funny. And I thank God it worked, because it might not have. And yeah, and then he got in touch with me and then asked me, hey, do you write jokes about country music artists? And I go, oh yeah, every day. Like, I had never written a joke about it. And so I sent him a joke every day for a year so that he would not forget about me. And I did a very similar thing with Jeff Ross, and that's how I got into roast writing. But anyway, I like, you know, sent him a joke, and then finally he's like, hey, can you come to Nashville and perform at my birthday party in front of all my Nashville friends and like do all these jokes? And I go, oh yeah, sure. I go, and I'd never done a roast before. This is before roasts were even like super famous. I mean, this is 15 years ago. It's like a long, and I get up there and I see Kix Brooks, and I go, Kix Brooks. I'm a huge fan, but I can never remember which one is Brooks, which one is Dunn, which one has the mustache and which one doesn't, which one actually tames the white tigers and which one doesn't do magic at all. Like, I always forget. And like the whole room is just quiet, right? And like, and then he's quiet because they're all looking at him. And I go, you didn't think that was funny? And he goes, no. I go, oh, well, maybe I didn't tell it right. I'll tell it again. And then I told it again. And then I just said, I was like, oh, it's just easy. I added, I go, oh, it's easier to remember y'all are lovers because you can't spend 20 years together and not at least make out on the red dirt road. And then, and like, it was just downhill from there. Like, literally the band started playing cricket noises behind me. No. And Brian McKnight went up after me and made a comment about having to clean the mess up. And then Tanya Tucker came up to me at the bar afterward, like cackling. She's like, that was the funniest goddamn shit I've ever seen. And I was like, well, as long as I got her approval, it's fine.
Thank you.
But 10 years later, I saw Kix Brooks at another event, a roast, an actual roast I was doing in Nashville. I did the same joke, it killed, and now him and I are friends, and I go and see him in Vegas all the time.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that is so
it's
cool.
like, so sometimes it's just the confidence that you have behind the material. Like, sometimes you're just unprepared for the moment, and like, you can just fail because you're not selling it with confidence. Part of that is just saying it with conviction.
Yeah.
Like, I don't give a shit if you don't like it, it's funny.
What about working with your peers? Is it any different, like trying to impress them as opposed to trying to impress a crowd? Have you worked with anybody where things have gone haywire?
Yeah, I mean, like, these shows at Big Slick are always so stressful because I'm like, these are my peers. They are people who are way more famous than me. If I don't do a good job, I'll probably never be brought back, and they're definitely not gonna hire me for any of their movies. They like could ruin my.
You had to play the game in the softball game, so you are getting back. You're getting invited back. Yes.
Yeah, I might get invited back, but well, the Royals are finally good this year, so actually I won't get drafted by them. But normally, normally I have. The last 4 years, I've had a chance. Yeah. Making that team.
Hey, but you did. You made the final out.
I made the final.
The first one, someone got in the way, interfered us. Totally redeemed yourself. Got the last one.
Yes, wasn't
We're
my
getting
fault.
the invite. We're getting the invite back.
Yeah. So you brought up your son earlier. Huge baseball fan, right?
Huge baseball fan.
Obviously gets it from you. Like.
Yes, he gets it from me. It is because I'm watching it so much, and I'm also, and not him. So
yeah, you were talking about how he does like stances and.
Yes, he does batting stances. He's really into baseball. I mean, my husband is a Red Sox fan, so he's like all Red Sox all the time, and he's also a sportscaster. So sports is on. We have 2 TVs in the living room, so my son just knows. Like, he gets to watch cartoons in the morning, but at night, this is what we watch. And you don't have to like sports. You don't have to play it, but it will be on. So. Your choice.
How old is he again?
He's 4.
He's 4.
Just turned 4, and he just started Wii Ball. It's his first time ever playing, and he got assigned the Yankees, which was not fun, but we still cheered for him, even though we were against it. But anyway, it's very funny because none of the kids, by the way, if my son ever got drafted by the Yankees or the Phillies, I'd be like, tattoo. I'd be totally fine. but yeah, so it's like the kids in the wee ball league, like they've never held a bat, they've never seen a glove. Like we had to train my son to hit off a tee because he would always want us to pitch overhand to him. He would get very upset if we didn't. One of us had to be the catcher and give signs. Like it was very, like there were a lot of details. Awesome. So all these kids are going up there like swinging backwards and like in the air and running the wrong way. And my son Cage gets up there. He's got like 2 batting gloves, Oakleys, blowing bubbles. He's like, they have to push everybody back because he doesn't hold
I actually got traded to Boston in 22 and played about 13 below average games there and went to the IL. So we'll make sure to get something for your husband after this. I got you.
No. He told me. I told him that I met you guys yesterday. He was very jealous.
Incredible.
And he was like, oh, Hosmer played for the Red Sox for like a year.
It was amazing because I got to play there and then Chicago after for the Cubs. So the difference between those fan bases, unreal. Like Boston, I was watching Xander Bogaerts get 4 hits in a game, and he gets the 5th one, and he like grounds out, and they're like, Xander, clean up that 5th at-bat. Think about that tomorrow. And then Chicago, like the fans are so nice out there. Like we lost the game, they're like, it's okay, guys, we'll get them tomorrow. And I'm like, this is such a big difference.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool to experience it though.
That is a huge difference. Well, I remember at the Poppy Roast, like Anthony Mackie, that's like, famous black actors there, and I go, oh, Anthony Mackie's here tonight because we needed someone to be racist to, and Adam Jones had a game.
Oh my God.
It was great. He thought it was hilarious, and the Red Sox fans in the crowd did not, but it was probably their fault.
Oh, man.
It was great, though. I love it all. I was like, anytime I can just dig the knife a little bit.
One common theme people have been saying after the Tom Brady roast, I don't know if you guys have heard this as well, is I've heard and seen on X or whatever, comedy's back. And it's interesting, it's like, and just this conversation around comedy and how sensitive America has gotten, but hey, let's bring it back. And so hearing from you, what do you guys think about the state of comedy or stand-up comedy in particular? Is it different? Has it evolved and changed? I'm just kind of curious on.
I don't think anything has changed. I don't see it. I feel like people are only ever say that shit on Twitter. And you'll go places and then like people who work at the club or, comics from that town, they'll be like, you can say whatever you want here. I go, I can say whatever I want anywhere. There are repercussions no matter what you say. And you have freedom of speech on stage to say whatever you want, and people have freedom of speech to say what they want about what you said. And that's just life. But I think that comedy on Netflix is different because comedy before, we usually saw specials on Comedy Central, and that's cable. You just can say more stuff on HBO than you could on cable. You could always do that. And I think with Netflix, Netflix famously just doesn't give you notes. They're like, if we hired you to be on this show, you can do whatever you want. It's your show. We're not gonna tell you. You're the expert. We're not gonna tell you what you can and can't say. So I think there was just more freedom on Netflix to say things, to cuss and use words and and you didn't have to worry about sponsors or anything. You don't, there's no ads being sold, so it wasn't any, some things, we didn't really talk about certain brands that the athletes themselves were tied to because they just didn't want to. But we could have made fun of, another person could have made fun of, Brady's Hertz commercial if he wanted to. But
I just saw that one.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot. Him and OJ had a lot of similarities, which we had a whole bit about. We had a whole bit about their similarities.
How much gets cut when you guys write?
There's so much on the floor that that just you just don't have time for, or there's too much crossover, and then you're also just so impressed that certain people were willing to do what they were willing to do. Even Kim Kardashian, the week before we found out she was coming and we were like, oh my gosh, all right, here, let's write some jokes. And it was we wrote a really soft script, like, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm attractive and you're attractive, you know? And she sent back a script that was like, my dad cut his dick off and the other one defended OJ. And we were like, like, this is amazing. Like, so,
firing all cylinders.
yeah, like you just get so excited when people are willing to go for it. And I think on Comedy Central, it was always a little different. You know, like this was the first roast I've ever done where everyone knew each other so well. Like they were very close, as opposed to like, we've known each other a long time. Are we close friends? Not necessarily. These guys were very close.
We have our 2015 10-year reunion next year, and we're trying to convince the Royals to let us do a roast.
Yeah, you should totally do a roast.
Just give it to Dice.
This
guy, like, he can make. He was our roast master in the clubhouse, like, and he never let anybody get away with anything.
Who is this?
Gerard Dyson.
Okay.
He just did not. You walk in the clubhouse, you know you're getting it from him.
Nobody was safe.
Yeah, nobody. Coaching staff, general manager.
Yeah.
He was coming with it. It was unbelievable.
And is that like is there always one guy? Or there's a series of guys in the clubhouse that are funny?
Yeah, I mean, most clubhouses have a couple dudes, but we all played together since we were like 18 years old. So it's like we were family, and he just absolutely got.
Yeah.
And that's when it's like, that's when you can really
go
after each other.
When you play in the minor leagues, you're in some of these towns where there's nothing going on. You know what I mean? We played in Clinton, Iowa, and it's like there's like a dog food factory there or something, and like we all get off the bus and like 7 dudes just start throwing up because the whole town just smells so bad. But nothing's open. You're usually going to someone's room, and it's like 10, 15 guys in there hanging out, having a good time. So yeah, that bond gets stronger and stronger throughout. And when you're with everybody every day for 8 straight months, you get plenty of material to start racking up and exploiting for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. I mean, it was so funny because we talk about the bus. So we played with a guy named James Shields.
Best mic man in the business.
It was unbelievable. He would entertain the players on our bus. He would get the mic and he called it the Wago G Show. And I was like, oh my God, I want to build enough courage up one year to be the mic guy one time. Never happened, but we look forward to those 20, 30-minute bus rides every time with Wago G.
That's how he started the show off.
Really?
Yeah, it was awesome.
And then that's like going from stadium to stadium in the minor leagues, you're like on a bus.
Bus is nonstop. It's the worst. And then AAA, you have to fly commercial, and you usually are taking the first flight out. You're taking a bus at 4 a.m. to get to the airport 2 hours before. I know. I mean, I had to deal with it for a whole month. It was tough.
Tough.
I got through it. I got through it.
I had to deal with it a little longer than that. But
let's not talk about how long I had to deal with it.
Yeah, he was in AAA for.
You mentioned roast master, Dice being our roast master. You've gotten to work with the roast master, Jeff Ross. What is that guy like? Is he? I mean,
he's
obviously,
awful.
We all see him as elite, but like, how good is he?
Jeff is so, like, he's been doing it for so long, and he's so quick. Like, I remember, like, he took me when I first started writing for him. Like, he was I was running a comedy room in Los Angeles, and like, he would come in and practice jokes for roasts. And finally, I was like, "What's the next roast you're doing?" And he told me, and I said, "What's your email?" And he gave it to me, and I just like sent him jokes every day until he couldn't ignore me anymore. And then he was like, you know, I can't pay you. This is like a charity gig. You don't have to pay me. Just remember me for a gig. Just remember me if you ever get a gig and you need somebody. And so the first thing he did was take me on a USO tour with all these Friars Club members from New York, and we went to Germany, and it was like a bunch of Friars Club members and then Adam Duritz from Counting Crows. Yeah, it was like very random. And like, you know, the whole time it was just non-stop jokes. Like Jeff, like this guy Stewie Stone gets on the bus and he's got this long Burberry jacket, and I go, "Nice coat," and he goes, "Old money," and then Jeff's like, "Old coat," and it was just non-stop. And so that is what it's like to be around him, like especially with fans. And like today we go to the hospital and we're visiting people, and he's just, you know, he'll like roast the parents, you know, like anything to just take their mind off of stuff. And even when you do those military shows too, you know, like he's just walking around base like We did a base where it was at this hospital and a lot of people had PTSD, and if they had PTSD, they had to wear these bright orange vests. And so Jeff comes out on stage wearing a bright orange vest, and the whole place lost it. And I think he said, he said it was from working with Flavor Flav for a month, and that's why he had PTSD. And so, I mean, he's a genius, and there's a reason that he is the best at what he does. And him and Tom own the roast going forward on comedies on Netflix, so they'll be the producers of them going forward. Yes.
A question that athletes are often asked is your Mount Rushmore of players. Greatest pitchers, greatest hitters, like whatever it may be. Who's your Mount Rushmore of comedians?
Oh, comedian. Well, for me, it would probably be roasters. I mean, comedians, I don't know.
Or roasters, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff is up there. Greg Giraldo's up there. He was always one of my favorites. Jeselnik is up there, and Nikki's up there. Now, Nikki, really surpassed everybody the last 2 times that she's done the roast. I'm like, yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
Were you guys actually out there watching the roast, or were you back behind the scenes?
Everybody got off work when the roast started, but I had Peyton, and so he was the last one up, and he was backstage. And he didn't actually get there till 6, so I had to wait for him. And so we were actually back there with Belichick, and Belichick's just watching the feed, just giggling. And I'm like, oh, he's gonna have so much fun, because you just don't know. You don't know right. Who's gonna take it well. There's always one, somebody that has had no idea. And I thought it was gonna be Randy Moss, because when he got there, he had told us that he liked all the scripts. We're like, okay, great. Then he got there, he clearly was like, oh, Tom's talking? He didn't know what a roast.
Exactly. He didn't know the whole format of it? The Justin Bieber one was the first one I've ever watched the roast-wise.
Yeah.
And then I literally immediately Googled every other roast from that point on. I'm like, this is amazing.
But that's what it got. You guys are talking about getting on the mic and getting booed as a young athlete. And what that does is it just it relaxes you and calms you down. And that's what a roast does for certain people. Most people will do a roast when they kind of need a reset in their career, when people are attacking them for one thing and the conversation is now changed. And for Justin, he was making that transition from kids music to real artist stuff, and he had made a lot of mistakes with DUI or a monkey, not meeting customs and all this stuff. And he does that roast, and then people just forget about it, because now people are oh, he's in on the joke. You can't make fun of him about it anymore. It's who was the actor that got caught with the black prostitute, and then oh, what's his name? Hugh Grant. And then he goes on Leno the very next day, and it was yeah. I mean, she was awesome. And then you can't make fun of him anymore, because he was fine with it, and you take the power away from people.
Yeah.
You take their power away.
Point. It was like we talked about, the collaboration of sports, comedy. Yep. So the Patriots documentary had just came out, and I think a lot of people were like, this isn't the right story, you know what I mean? So gave those guys an opportunity to attack that problem, clear that up.
Yeah.
And then on the comedy side, there's a Nikki Glazer, unbelievable. Immediately watched all her specials after. The guy that called Bert Kreischer, you look like the Liver King, mixed with Burger King.
Tony Hinchcliffe.
Oh my God.
Incredible.
The way he just went one by one.
Kill Tony, that's what
immediately looked up all his stuff after. So that was just the perfect storm for everything.
Yeah. Tony was in Jeff's backyard the first day that I came to work with him. And we were both we had both just started, he was working the door at the Comedy Store, and I come in the backyard, and then then we all get hired to do Jeff's first pilot, because we've, pitching all these jokes with him, helping him with Sheen. And then Jeff gets a pilot on Comedy Central, and Tony is he has an iPad, he can't even afford a computer. And I remember we got our checks, and he had no idea that people would take taxes out. And he was what the fuck? He's this is a whole reason to I'm becoming a Republican. He was so upset. And
that unlocked a whole new
Tony. Yeah, so I was really happy for him to take that moment, and just he had it all memorized. He's the only person that wasn't on a prompter. The problem with a prompter is that people are reading ahead. on stage.
I would hate the prompter.
Oh my God.
It would throw me off.
Yeah.
I would just like have to somehow learn it. If I had stuff, I would need like little cues to remember what to say, but that was something Rob was telling us as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
His first time.
Oh yeah.
Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, it's like you got the guy goes as fast as you're talking. Like, oh God.
Yeah.
I would mess that up every single
I
time.
would have no shot.
Yeah.
Who would you roast as, if we were gonna roast the greatest baseball player?
Greatest baseball
Who
player.
could be roasted? I mean, because it's like
Like a
Jeter
current-
doesn't have a personality. Like, we can't do him. I mean, I love Derek Jeter. He would be the ideal one, but it's like, we need to do more things on the record than gift bags.
Gift baskets.
Yeah.
Those were great. I feel like A-Rod's gotten to a point in his career now where he has kind of, like you said, he's attacked certain things that have been said about him, and people love watching all of his stuff now. He covers baseball. I feel like he would be a good sport with it too. He
would be pretty, and it is a great way to just like diffuse any of like the old steroid conversations and stuff, and like then the conversation just becomes about how cool he is instead of anything else.
Right. Thank you for coming. We're going to continue to talk about these roasts, and we're going to find a way for that 15 roast to happen.
Oh yeah. I'll help you guys write it too if you have any.
But you didn't write any material about these guys on the way over here or nothing?
These guys?
Yeah.
No. You have to have like credits and like ability. You know what I mean? Like
you actually have to
maybe like more than like one ring.
It's got to be better than average.
But you weren't like no. Like I really only roast really famous athletes.
Yeah. Thank God. I knew there was a reason I wasn't so good.
No.
Yes.
No.
We walked by one of his pictures last night in the stadium.
No, don't do this.
No. There was a lady there, really nice lady, and she's like, "Oh man, that's pretty cool." And he's like, "That was me." And she's like, "Nah, there's no way." Like,
yeah, I was actually good at this game once.
But
actually still not done.
You're gonna be. I need you as my writer.
Oh, yes. You got it. I got you.